So I was just scrolling through the news today on CBC and on Reddit, and I noticed this story about this pregnant woman who was trying to cross into Canada through Emerson, and I guess she got caught in a big pile of snow near some train tracks and had to call 911 to come and help her. But, now this woman, I wonder if her kid is going to be a Canadian citizen now because she birthed him in Canada. You come across the border illegally, pregnant, right about to, 9 months pregnant pretty much, or however far she was. Clearly she went into, birthing or whatever, that she was far due in, and she waited until that point to come across the border, right? She probably thought, oh, if I come in like at 6 months, they'll probably turn me back. So the safest bet that I'm going to have to enter into the country is if I do it when I'm 9 months pregnant, where I could put the baby at jeopardy. But she doesn't give a shit about her baby. She just wants to get a free ride into Canada, and she's going to use her unborn child to do that. Just like all of these Hondurans and all those other people are using their kids to get into America. I mean, like, they'll just grab some random kid, bring him to the border, and be like, oh, don't separate families. Oh, how could you separate families? Blah, blah, blah. But it's like these people are scum. A lot of them, there was this one person, I think, trying to bring their kid into America, and their kid died because they didn't drink water for like 5 or 6 days. And they were trying to blame this on the Trump administration, but clearly it was the parents' fault, being irresponsible, not giving their kid water. So, it's like they don't care about their kids. They're just looking out for their own interest. And now we hear that Trudeau is apparently in talks with America to close the safe third country loophole or agreement that is being exploited right now by a bunch of illegal aliens. But it's really convenient that he's doing this right at the end of, right at the beginning of an election cycle. He probably won't. He's going to pretend like he's talking, saying, we're making steps to close it. We're working with America. But, after he gets elected, he'll be like, oh, yeah, the talks fell out and they didn't really work. We're going to keep the border open for now. We can't really fix it because Trump's a big meanie, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't want to cooperate and, fix anything. Their proposition is probably remove all of the tariffs and close the border, the loophole. Like that's probably their proposition. Of course, Trump is not going to take that deal. He's going to be like, why would I take a deal where I'm actually offloading all these people into your country instead of mine? Now you have to pay for it instead of me. This just looks better on my budget. So, what are they going to offer exactly? Even closing it is kind of irrelevant. Like, you should close it, but the people are still going to cross even when you do close it. And it's going to be irrelevant because we signed the Migration Pact of Immigration, which means that, anybody who is entering into your country is going to be considered a refugee or considered practically a citizen anyways. You can't turn them away. And he signed this, so it doesn't even matter if he's closing the loophole in the border. They're still going to come across. He's still going to let them in. He's still going to make them into citizens, and we're still going to have birthright citizenship. So he's just saying this to try to entice some people or to get some of the ignorant people who still think liberals are like not partisan or something, that like, oh, see, they're working on the border. See, they're doing some stuff. And they're also, see, they're trying to approve the pipeline. They're trying their best, guys. They're trying their best. Just, we're dealing with Trump and the courts made the decision. It's like some people, they still believe that shit. It's like you're completely deluding yourself if you think that Trudeau is not trying to stack the vote as much as he possibly can by importing people from different cultures. And you're deluding yourself if you think that Trudeau doesn't want to destroy our economy and our energy sector. And it's not because he believes in environmentalism like a lot of the other useful idiots around. It's because they're probably paid off by China and other foreign governments to destroy our energy sectors so then their energy sectors can thrive instead. You know, what is that? The Tides Foundation? I think that was by Soros, but there were some other groups that are linked with the energy sectors in America that were funding Aboriginals in Canada to go and protest our energy sector and to create roadblocks for us because of the treaties. And then, you know, it's like, oh, well, you didn't consult with us properly and all that crap. So, you know, this is happening all the time in our economy. And the people who call themselves environmentalists, like I said, don't actually believe it. And the few that do are just useful idiots for China and other economies. So don't buy into him trying to close this border. Like I said, the Migration Pact for Immigration has already been signed, so they're going to come across regardless. What needs to happen is we need to stop providing benefits for these people whatsoever. We need to start helping Canadian citizens instead. But obviously that is not going to happen because we are a diminishing group. And the more we get smaller, the less you're going to see politicians of any stripe listen to us, listen to our demands, listen to what we think about immigration. Because if you look at the polling in most Western countries, they all disagree with immigration. They all think it should be lowered. But our politicians do not listen to us. And this goes with, like, a lot of liberals, some NDP. They probably want immigration lowered too, but they're convinced by this propaganda of climate change and stuff. Well, if you vote for anybody on the right, they're going to do nothing about climate change and we're all going to die in 12 years. And, you know, I may have some reservations about immigration, but I'm convinced by all this socialist nonsense and the environmentalism that I'm so scared that I'm going to vote for these parties. Because, and also, I don't want to be called a racist, because anybody now who is talking about immigration and lowering it is going to be called a white supremacist. Because that guy in New Zealand, that was his goal completely. And this is the goal of the media, is they want to demonize basic milquetoast conservatives who say practically nothing, right? That, you know, I've been seeing this for years, this push in articles and whatnot from the left, where they're trying to frame things like freedom of speech, free markets, a lot of basic conservative principles as white supremacy, as leading to white supremacy, etc. And it's, you know, and bedfellows with it. So their target isn't really the fringes. They want the fringes to go and do crazy shit, and, you know, so then they could use that to then smear regular basic conservatives. Like, look at how they're treating Andrew Scheer. You're like, you didn't condemn the New Zealand thing enough, and you need to apologize again. So then he remade another apology and said he's sorry, and it said Muslim 100 million times. But that's never going to work. That's a losing game. When you play the game of the left, you're going to lose every single time. You know, they'll let you in, they'll let you buy back in, but with very few chips, and with the assurity that you're going to lose at the end of the day. This is why there's no point to pander to them. This is why there's no point to apologize to the left, because it's never enough. And Maxime Bernier actually had the correct response when it came to this tragedy. He didn't say anything at all, and then he went and brought up all of the Christians being butchered by Muslims each and every single day, and how nobody says anything about it, and how clearly this virtue signaling is just used for a political agenda to push their politics, to go to demonize the conservatives. You know, the amount of articles I'm reading about this thing is ridiculous. I just saw one of Slate today where it's like, we need to blame all white men for the actions of this shooter. And, you know, they're like, oh, the last thing we want to do is put hashtag not all white men. You know, just like the exact same thing they do when a Muslim terrorist goes, they're like, hashtag not all Muslims, hashtag not Islam, Islam is peace. You know, they really want to analyze the situation and figure out the context when a Muslim guy goes and kills somebody, like he recently did in that Ubrick, I think it was Dane, Netherlands or something. There was that Turkish guy who just killed 3 people, injured 9 others. And I was seeing headlines about this when it was coming out, and they're like, motive is unclear, even though he yelled Allahu Akbar when he did this, even though, you know, he has ties to ISIS, even though he's known by the police for it with extremism and, like, you know, a rape case before, but this guy's somehow still out on the streets, and they're all worried about white supremacy and white terrorists and white people everywhere, whereas there's these minority of people in your countries that are committing disproportionate amounts of terrorism. And if you look globally, it's the majority of terrorism. You know, it's interesting with America too. It's funny, you see them, to bolster up the white terrorism that they can push and propagate, you know, and try to make everybody afraid of. They take examples from Europe, and they take examples from New Zealand and say, see, look at all this, and an example from America, and lump it all together. But when it's Islamic terrorism, it's just like, no, you can only talk about it, the stuff that happens in America. That's it. You can't lump in all these other things together because that's bigoted, etc. You know, only talk about America or your country. You can't look to what's going on in Europe and add those things to it, right? But it's like they do that all the fucking time. And, you know, I know I'm kind of going on a different rant because I started off with this woman who's crossing into the border illegally, who's now going to have a child. And yeah, they're just taking advantage of our laws, of our rights, and Trudeau's not going to do anything about it, regardless of him saying he's going to close the loophole. It's just for brownie points for the election, because he knows he's not polling too well right now. But does it really matter when he legalized and allowed all these expats to vote in other countries? Does it matter when all of the refugees he immediately brought over into Canada are now practically citizens, or are citizens now, because, you know, he lowered the rate that they have to wait now, so now it's like 4 years instead of 5. You know, perfect for elections, right? He's just stacking the deck as much as he possibly can, so then he can fumble and do stupid shit and say stupid shit all the time and still get elected. So, you know, it's really going to be interesting to see what is going to happen in the next year or so in Canada, and what the Conservative Party is going to do in response to this, because there's so much pressure on them right now from the media, from the left, from all these people saying, oh, you need to denounce, oh, you're the hateful groups in your party, you need to denounce Faith Goldie, you need to denounce this person and this person and this person. And, you know, if they keep doing this, they're just going to assure their own loss, because they're not going to convince minorities and other people that they're not racist, because basic milquetoast conservative principles are considered racist just in of themselves, right? If you believe in a free market, you're a white supremacist. If you believe in math, you're a white supremacist. If you believe in logic, consistency, a meritocracy, if you believe in any of these things, you're a white supremacist. So don't, if they're smart, they won't push away a lot of people that are speaking about immigration, that are speaking about demographic replacement. But I continue to see signs of them doing that, which is not smart. And it would be smart for the PPC to pick up those people and to not try to fall into the same trap that the CPC has fallen into, where they're trying to, appease leftists who are never going to be appeased. There's this one girl, I might do a story on, I forget her name, something Ford, Kaylin Ford or something. I think she was working for Jason Kennedy, and some things came out about her, and now she's leaving the party. I'm sure they asked her to leave herself, but she was simply saying a few things about white people and being replaced in their own countries. She wasn't advocating violence or anything like that. She was talking about how the disproportionate coverage of when an Islamic terrorist does something as opposed to a white person, or a white supremacist does something. In one case, we want to find out the reasons why they didn't. We want to explore all the different dimensions. But in the other one, when it's white supremacists, they're all to blame. We need to censor them all. We need to do this. We need to do that. And, she was just pointing out the inconsistencies, but now she's had to step down. So that's not a good sign. That's a losing strategy for the Conservatives, even though they think that moving away from this is going to be beneficial for them, so then it can get the potential increasing vote of the demographic change, right? They're thinking, oh, the demographics are changing, and we're going to have to start pandering to other groups. And to some extent, they're right. But that's, like I said, it's a losing battle for them in the long run, and it would be smarter to try to appeal to white people. And that doesn't mean coming out and saying, hey, white people, I'm going to give you this. Hey, white people, I'm going to give you money to have more babies. Hey, white people, this, and that. It's just essentially ignoring the left when they go and they demonize people. Say, oh, that's a white supremacist. Get rid of them. Say, fuck it. Unless they're legitimately calling for violence and saying some really whacked out shit, really crazy shit, then be like, yeah, whatever. We support free speech in this party. What is your problem? That's the end. That's the gist of them. We support people with different ideas. And because the left has framed reducing immigration as a bad thing, or even stopping it, and the Conservatives have fallen in line with it, they can never speak out against it, and they kind of have to attack these people who ask for a reduction of it. That, and they're also, a lot of them like a lot of immigration because they like cheap labor to be imported into the country. But them playing the game of the left is going to fuck them over and not allow them to embrace people like this Ford girl who's recently released. And the PPC, like I said, if they were smart, they would try to get that girl. They would try to go for people that are being rejected from the CPC for being too far right-wing and talking about immigration like this. And, that one girl, she said she was sad about white people being replaced. What is that? Is that really something bad? Is that really a bad thing to say? No, it isn't. It's not at all a bad thing to say. So we need to break this brainwashing of where people think it is a bad thing. And we need to kind of wake people up to the notion that white people are allowed to exist. White people are allowed to have the ability to control the immigration of their countries. And it's not a bad thing. It's just been, we've been brainwashed into thinking that. But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.